Hello, I'm EnterElysium and welcome back to From the Depths tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about missiles and custom missiles in the particular. So, opening up this, we can see we can go to missile torpedo, missile controller, six-way connector, all this lovely jazz. So, starting off, you basically want to start from your missile controller. I don't actually normally start from missile controller, but that is basically like the breech of a cannon. It is the component that does all the controlling and all the stuff like that. So, we'll place one down here. Bam. Now you notice it says it connects to the front, left, and right. And connects to both connectors and launch pads. So, to connect to our missiles can be on the front, the left, and the right. And yes, I did get those two mixed up just then. So let's put some six-way connectors down. You can see these say connect to missile controller. If I was to put one behind, not connected. One in front, connected. One on top, can't do it. And there we go. So, from that, you get to that. You also get to the missile launch pad. So if we put a missile launch pad here, it is connected. And if we put one here, connected, here, connected. If we put one on top, connected as well. We'll just leave it at these for the moment. So these are basically what your missile sits attached to. This is the brains of the missile controlling device. This is the conduit that takes it to the missiles itself. And this is the actual missile launch pad. This is what your missile is based off of. So, to determine how awesome your missile is going to be, you have missile blocks. These are basically the racks in which the missiles actually sit. And they sit in front of these launch pads like so. And you can see that we have a missile here. If I keep making this longer, the missile gets bigger. If I take it and get really, really short, we get a really short missile. For now, let us stick with about 4. And we'll do a 3 here. And a 2 here. Now, normally attached to one system, you'll want the same missiles so that you know you're firing basically the same thing. But for now, just to demonstrate different length missiles and what you can get in different things, I'm going to do 3 different sizes. So that is how you have your missiles. We'll go into the missiles in a second. Firstly, though, ejector add-on. Lure transceiver. Lure transceiver is basically allows you to program missiles with lure code. We're not going to get into that. It's far beyond the scope of this tutorial. It is far beyond this very basic look. We're going to ignore lure for the moment. Be aware it is in the game. Be aware you can do something with it if you thus choose, like, later on. But I'm not going to talk about it at all from now on. The ejector add-on, though, is something that you will want to use occasionally. Currently, the missiles in their launch pads will just basically ignite their thrusters and take off. If we wanted to, say, get them out quicker, or if we had them pointing vertically and wanted to be able to chuck them out of the tube upwards, or if we wanted to hit a fast-moving object and wanted the missile to get there faster, you can use ejector add-ons. Ejector add-ons basically increase the speed at which your missile leaves the tube. So we've got one attached to this one. We could attach a second one. We could attach one on top. And notice it says 3 ejector cylinders connected to this launch pad. We can do the same over here. We've only got like 2 slots left. And then I'm going to attach none over here, just to give you a demonstration of none, 1, and 3. Not that they're all the same size, it won't matter. So, these basically are good. They're ready to go, almost. But we need to configure the missile, and we need to talk about these things over here. So, missile winch. It's used with harpoon missiles. I'm not going to go into it in too much detail. It's a bit more of a complicated setup that you can actually have missiles with harpoons attached, and they basically hit things and then wheel them in theory, if you've got enough pulling power. Basically, attaching these to your blocks or to your controllers allows you to actually connect those harpoons. Staggered fire add-on. This is highly useful. If you are launching, say, 3 missiles at once, and they're all going to go towards the target, they're all going to hit or they're all going to miss. Also, if the enemy intercepts them with like a laser interception system and blows one of them up, they're probably going to ignite each other. If you stagger your missiles, however, with a staggered fire add-on, connect to missile controller, there we go. By the way, this only needs to be connected to anywhere on the actual missile controller or any of its conduits. Doesn't matter. So it applies a 0.1 delay. We can increase that with Q to a maximum of 0.5. If you wanted to get a longer delay, you could add a second one. For now, I think what we'll do is we'll just suffice with a 0.1 second delay. And maybe 0.2 actually, just so you can see the difference. So every missile will fire, but there'll be a 0.2 second delay in between the firing. Now, there is also the Identify Friend or Foe add-on. So if you're using a missile with a heat-seeking warhead or whatever, it will target hot things in front of it. That may include friendlies. If you add a Identify Friend or Foe, connected, they will no longer target friendlies. They understand who is friendly. They may still hit them on the way to actually getting to a target behind them, because it doesn't know that they're there, but it will not deliberately target a friendly. Now, there is also the laser emitter. Now, The laser emitter is a fun one, and it comes down to what you would like in your missiles. Some missiles are better with them, some missiles are better without, but it gives you a method of designating a target. Basically, if I point this laser at a target, the missile will then fly towards wherever the laser is hitting. So currently the laser isn't hitting anything, so it's red because it's just going over the horizon. But if there's a warship in front of me, it would be a green laser, and it'd be like, we are targeting this point. All the missiles would then go to intercept that point. If they have a, I think it's a laser beam rider or a laser designator receiver warhead. Currently, these missiles work, and if I was to walk over to them, you notice that I've now got control, and if we fire... So the middle one fired first. It had a little bit of speed going off. Then this one fired, which didn't even have a thruster. It's actually just a body segment. This one just shot off because it has so many launchers attached. Then this one took off. This one has no launchers, and it went pretty slow. Currently, our missiles are reloading, but the problem is they take a lot of ammo, and the ammo they take is dependent upon the length of the body, and it's having trouble reloading because we have so little ammo. So if we just run over here and we increase our ammo supply with R to copy, and then use fill, there we go. We've now got 2,800 ammo. Now, a note about ammo. Ammo does replenish, so if we were to go back and fire, you can see that our ammo is going to replenish when it finally depletes to there we go. Watch our ammo go back up, and then there we go. Ammo passively replenishes when it's in these ammo barrels. These ammo barrels replenish, but slowly. You can use, build mode, a ammunition processor. Ammunition processors take power. No, they don't take power. Okay, I thought they took power. They take metal, 5 metal per batch to create 20 ammo. However, they do use metal up. It's up to you whether you want them. In survival mode, when metal is expensive and rare, and basically you need all you can get at the beginning of the game, when you're actually in the campaign, probably going to use them less. But later on, when you've got enough metal to be able to use these, they are very, very useful. Especially considering ammo barrels are explosive. These are not. Ammo barrels are very explosive. Yes. Ammo barrels, explosive. We should repair these because I've got magical repair tentacles. And we shouldn't have to worry about that ammo. So, can we get one back, please? Just one? Yeah, there we go. Okay. So, I should stand over here. I should still be repairing. Good. So, let's talk about these missiles in particular. I don't want control of you. Go away, laser. Right. So, let's have a quick look at the different things you can have in a missile. Currently, we have a short-range thruster, 2 fuel tanks, 2 fins, target prediction guidance, explosive warhead, and a laser designator receiver. Let's go through these, and we'll go through all the options in a second. So, short-range thruster. If we go look this up, I've just replaced it. Whoops. Start delay, max duration, and this is present everywhere. Basically, that says you can't explode until so many seconds have passed. The max duration on a short-range thruster is 20 seconds. That means it will only burn for 20 seconds before shutting off, even if it's got fuel left. You can also have a start delay, which is very useful, so you can be like, right, if we're, say, an upward-firing missile, basically vertical launch tubes, eject it upwards with ejectors, and turn the thruster on after it turns toward the enemy. So you can basically be like, right, I'm going to fire you, and then 12 seconds later, use your thruster. Not that you'd really want to do that with 12 seconds. That'd be quite a long time. Then there are fuel tanks. These contain the fuel which your thruster or your propeller will use. Then you've got fins. These basically are the maneuverability of your missile. The more fins it's got, the more maneuver it'll be. So if you want a missile that can intercept enemy aircraft, you probably want a lot of fins. If you want, say, a missile that can hit a very large lumbering target that you're going to point at the target before firing, you probably don't need that many fins at all. Target prediction guidance. This basically says the target is moving so fast, aim in front of it. That's what target prediction guidance does. You probably want it on missiles, especially against larger moving targets. Not larger moving targets, sorry, faster moving targets, ones that are going to move quite a lot. And so your missile will have to try and predict where they're going to be. Useful, especially in those circumstances. Explosive warhead. Does damage. Does damage with an explosion. Probably one of the weaker warheads, but it's reliable. It works against quite a lot of enemies. It's probably your bread and butter. Laser designator receiver. So this missile is currently targeting its enemies via the laser designator receiver, which is the targeting mechanism this missile is going to use. It's basically going to aim at our laser. Now you can change that to be aim at this vehicle's lasers, aim at team's lasers, or just aim at lasers attached to this missile block. So this is your designator. This is your mechanism of finding the enemy and targeting them. All mechanisms of actually targeting the enemy All your guidance systems will be on the nose of the missile except for one, and the lure block. But that's, again, outside of our tutorial. We have several options. We have an infrared seeker. Infrared seeker. Acquire target in a 120-degree forward-facing field of view. They prefer large and hot targets and tend to aim at jets or engines. Also at heat decoys. They're a bit more dumb, but they don't need line of sight to be fired. Line of sight is needed for the laser designator because the laser needs to be able to hit them. It's a line. Infrared seekers can be fired over hills, and they will then target people. Laser beam radar receiver. This is the one that breaks the rule. Laser beam radar receiver do not need to actually be at the front of a missile. You could put them on anywhere on the missile. What these do is they basically follow a laser. Not by looking where the laser is hitting, but by looking where the laser is going. It looks behind itself, in fact. The missile actually looks behind itself to find the laser and to try and get onto it. This means that because it actually can't see through itself, it can't see directly behind it, so it sort of wobbles side to side, trying to follow the path. And as you can see, it says, backwards-facing missile block will follow the beam of the missile laser block. Use of engaging fast air targets so the target does not have to be pointed at the target until the terminal stage. It will ride the beam. It will look behind itself, flicking side to side to make sure it can actually see the laser, and it will go towards the target. Useful for things that want to take up the front slot, but generally a less used targeting method. You've got designated receiver, we went over that. Proximity fuse, this will basically go, is the enemy within 5 meters and within a forward-facing 90-degree field of view, 37-degree field of view. Useful if you want something like proximity mines, or if you want to try and hit very fast-moving air targets with a large frag explosion. Safety fuse, this will stop the missile exploding on the vehicle it was launched from under any circumstances. Occasionally useful, but often the missile hopefully should have left your vehicle by then. 1 turn. This will direct the missile onto the course the player is facing when they launch the missile. This is useful for upwards firing missiles. If you fire them upwards and then want them to turn towards the target, use a 1 turn. If you, say, launch a torpedo and want the torpedo to immediately turn towards the enemy target, use a 1 turn. Torpedo propeller. Torpedo propellers work underwater to provide thrust to torpedoes. The presence of this unit allows the missile to float on water. Torpedo propellers are very useful for torpedoes, as you might have guessed. Torpedo propellers are actually incredibly fuel efficient. Normally in torpedoes, you will only want 1 fuel tank and probably several torpedo propellers so that they can get a decent turn of speed. They are incredibly good with fuel. Really, in your torpedo, probably only needs 1 fuel tank. Seriously. Have several torpedo propellers, though. Torpedo sonar, again useful for torpedoes. They have a 120-degree field of view. Most useful for hunting ships and submarines. Only target components that are underwater and only works when underwater. Again, useful. They do have a downside in that you could use something like an infrared rather than a sonar, but infrared can be, decoyed with heat and stuff. Torpedo sonar doesn't have that problem. Magnet for mines. Magnet works on anything. Doesn't just have to be mines, but it's very, very useful on mines. It has a range of... We're still looking at the proxy fuse, aren't we? There we go. Place a magnet. Range of 50, or you can take it down to a range of 5. And you tend to have a delayed start time. This basically will say, if there's an enemy within 50, start getting pulled towards them. So a missile might have shot past them by the time it's taken over, but they can be useful. But if you have something that's not got a thruster and you're just ejecting it or dropping it below yourself as a bomb, it will jump through the water, getting pulled towards a target. The target doesn't have to be magnetic, just has to be any vessel within so far distance. You have a problem that they also get attracted towards friendly targets, but they are useful. Magnets are very useful for mines and bombs and stuff. They are pretty fun. Ballast tank. You will probably want these for torpedoes. I fully recommend them. What a ballast tank does is tells it you can float, you can sink. If you leave it with the defaults, however, it is neutral buoyancy. That is, every missile and torpedo, I'm not sure about missiles, definitely torpedoes, likes to float. Torpedoes will skim the surface of the water, basically. If you add a ballast tank, they're now neutral buoyancy. They can go down, they can go up. If you see a submarine and you don't have a ballast tank, the torpedo will float on the surface of the water and won't be able to get to the sub. If you have a ballast tank, because it's neutral buoyancy, the torpedo can choose to go down. Ballast tanks on torpedoes. Get them. Regulator. Again, another thing that's amazing for torpedoes, also useful for mines. Regulator allows your missile to survive for an extra 180 seconds. The base survival time is 60 seconds. The effects stack, useful for mine layers. Torpedoes can take a time to get to the target. Especially since they're so efficient, they can be used at extreme range, but you need them to make sure they don't despawn. Add a regulator to do that. Also useful for mines, where the enemy might walk into them, or they might take a while to get dragged towards the target because the magnet is fairly weak. Use a regulator. That's what it does. Fragmentation warhead. Okay, we're talking about new warheads. Fragmentation warhead. Very useful. You can set the cone explosion. Currently, this explodes all over the place. If you set it to 90 degrees, it will only explode forwards and to the side. If you, say, set it really, really low, it'll shoot like basically a shotgun of pellets forwards. Frags are awesome. They do take up more processing power when they explode if you fire a lot of frags at once. There is a chance if you fire enough of them, you can crash your computer. I have heard people complaining about that and have experienced it myself. But they are generally a very, very good warhead. Especially useful if you've got like a proxy fuse and you want to be able to hit moving air targets. You set the proxy fuse to be able to explode with a angle of 90, and then you'd be like, okay, frags, I want you to have an angle of 90. Get within 5 meters of the target, you're going to hit them with some frags. Camera for IR seekers. If you have an IR detector as your navigation method, cameras are awesome. If we put a camera on, you can see. Camera. Aim at center of mass. Aim at shields. Aim at particular random block. Aim at hot things. With an infrared seeker, they will always aim at hot things, which means that if you fire 10 missiles, they will all converge at the same point. That's not so great. If you use a camera, however, they see the hot target, and then they go, okay, thing it's attached to, cool. Set them to aim at random block. Instead of all hitting the same point, which will often be like an engine which you might blow off, and then the rest of your missiles just going straight through the debris and missing completely, they will all pick random different blocks on the target, which means you will pepper the enemy with missiles. They are amazing, and for IR missiles, I generally try and use a camera as much as possible. Cameras are amazing. The downside to them, by the way, is their high drag. We're going to talk about drag in a bit. Cable drum uses the harpoon, provides extra 400 meters of cable. We're not going to go over harpoons too much. Harpoon, 200 meters of cabling. Sticky flare. It's hot, attracts missiles. So you can fire these off as like decoys, basically. Not going to go over that too much. EMP warhead. Another type of warhead. This one will basically do damage to EMP susceptible systems, things like lasers and AI components and shields. Against shields, they are very, very useful. Basically, instead of, say, a frag, or in addition to a frag, you could have an EMP warhead to take down the enemy shields or blow up their AI components. Very useful. Single pixel IR seeker. It only has a 70-degree field of view, so it's less than the other methods of navigation, but it's very, very fast. It has a 0 drag, so it will actually travel very fast as a missile. It can't see directly in front of itself, however, so it has to move side to side, so it wobbles in the air a little bit. It is very fast, but it has a low field of view, so you'll have to point it at the enemy before firing it, probably. We've got missile interceptor. Basically, it can be used to try and intercept enemy missiles. I haven't used them that much. They're a bit more complicated. We're going to skip these in particular. Variable thruster. Let's replace our normal thruster. Variable thruster doesn't have the limit of 20 seconds. It does, however, have some more complicated options. It has a ramp time, so you can be like, go from 0 to full power over the course of 5 seconds. 2 seconds. It doesn't have a delay. It will always be on. It will just be increasing in power until that time. You can also then set the thrust. This also determines efficiency. So currently the thrust is 1,000, the same as a short-range thruster. If we were to increase it to 2,000, it would be twice as thrustful. Thrustful? That's not a word. It would have twice as much power. The problem is it won't go twice as fast because air resistance is exponential. The faster you go, the more air resistance you experience. So it'll maybe go 50% as fast. It will also burn fuel a lot quicker. It will be much more inefficient. But if you want like a long-range slow missile, you could quite easily set that to 600. It'll go a lot slower, but it will be so much more efficient and it will go for miles. Of course, slow-moving missiles are maybe easier to dodge. The target might be dead by the time you get there, or gives the enemy a lot longer to shoot it down. But very useful. Thumper head. Okay, the Thumper head is a very different type of missile. It's been added recently to the game. The Thumper head goes on the front of your missile. It can only go on the front of your missile. The thing is, then your missile has no navigation because it takes up the front slot. What you can do, however, is add a laser beam rider, the only navigation method that doesn't go on the front of your warhead, except for the lure warhead, lure block, whatever. This means that you can basically put the laser beam rider receiver behind it, and you can be like, right, come on. Target using that Thumper warhead. What the Thumper warhead does is it turns velocity into damage. It is basically a kinetic kill vehicle. It takes its kinetic energy when it hits the target and does damage using that. They are very effective, and usually you want them to have a high speed with a variable thruster to be able to do the max amount of damage. You want them to have a nice high speed. So variable thruster, turn it like really far up. Going to do loads of damage. Going to go very fast. Great for taking out air vehicles. Also great against a lot of things. Then we've got the lure receiver. We're not going into that. Much like the beam rider, you can stick it behind a thing and you can use lure commands to get to target enemies. We're not going to go into that in detail. So with a variable thruster, 2 fuel tanks, a thin camera. Let's just reset this. Let's put a infrared seeker on the front. And let us put a EMP warhead in, just because we need an EMP warhead. Target prediction guidance. I think I missed one. Where's APN guidance? Here we go. I missed APN guidance. APN guidance is basically like target prediction guidance. It's a different type. APN guidance basically works based on looking at paths that converge. It's better than the target prediction guidance, but it doesn't work at large angles. So if you've got a missile that's launching upwards and has to turn towards the target, it won't work, because it can't work out because the paths don't converge. It can only do this when paths converge. Generally, target prediction guidance will be fine, but if you feel like you want to actually branch out and start using APN guidance, which is in theory better, it's good, but you have to have the missile point at the target when you launch it. So now we have a missile. Here's a variable thruster. Let's just set that down to normal. That's about normal. With a ramp time of 2 seconds, 2 fuel tanks, a thin. It's got a camera that will target a random block. Target prediction guidance, EMP warhead, and infrared seeker. This missile is a perfectly good missile. Now you can make smaller missiles and smaller missiles, but by the time you get to something like this, you'll be like, right, we need a fin, we need a fuel tank, we need a thruster, we need a warhead. Oh, wait, where's the guidance going to go? Okay, we now have no payload. 2-block missiles don't really make missiles. You could use a thumper warhead and then have it unguided, but you then still have problems. 3 is the smallest real missile you can make that's actually guided. And then 4, you're getting to something with a decent payload. You can make them longer. You can make them really long. The longer your missile, the more ammo it will take up to fire. And you can also make mines using very, very small ones. Now, a quick mention about optimizing your missile. Let's look at this design. You can see that we have this drag here. Drag 003, base of 02. Basically, the further back in your missile the component is, the less drag it will have. Each component has a base drag, 0.02, 0.02, 0.02, fins, 0.05, 0.02, 0.05. This has to be on the front, so let's ignore this for a moment. You can see that this is halved. This is less than half. This is a quarter. This is getting much, much smaller. Basically, the further back, the less your drag matters. Currently, there is a small exploit you can do. I don't know if it's ever going to be patched out, in that you can actually put fins on the back. Since fins are really high drag components, that will give it the minimum amount of drag. You can put a fuel tank there and a short-range thruster there, and that will work. Even though the thruster is not the furthest back item, this will work. The fins being at the back means that they have a very low drag, despite the fact fins have a very high drag in their base drag. You can see 0.5 is, well, 0.05 is the highest. You know, let's ignore this. This has to be on the front. And we've minimized it by taking them to the back. And this missile will work. If we fire it, and if we press caps lock, we can follow the missiles. And we're now spinning around because I've moved the laser. And that's missiles. You can have them pointing directly up and then turning towards the target. Remember, if you're going to do that, let's not take control, you'll want to look at this and you'll be like, right, I can add required accuracy before firing. No limit. Now, if it sees an enemy anywhere around, it will fire. If you've got it pointing vertically up and the enemy's over there and you want it to go up and then fly to the side, it will fire. And then if you've got something like a 1 turn, it will turn and it will see the enemy and it will then start navigating itself towards the enemy. You can also attach them to something like a spin block. So if we were to go here, add new object, spin turn, oh, not spin turn, sorry, turret, 360 turret, and then we were to add a missile torpedo, missile controller, launch pad, missile block. Let's take control of this. And you see, because we use a 360, we can also aim up. And then we can aim at a target. So if there were like planes attacking us, we could quickly point them out and then be like, fire! Hello, have you detected something? I don't know what targeting mechanism you're using. But anyway, this is a simple tutorial. So, quick mention about the last thing only. The last thing is, like we did in the cannon tutorial, the weapon controller. The weapon controller can be attached to either of two things. It can be attached to this here, the actual spin block, which is recommended, currently controlling one weapon, or you can attach it to the actual weapon controller block itself. So if we go over here and attach the weapon control block, controlling one weapon. Now, by doing this, it's connecting to this and it going, okay, if you can see a target, fire. If we're doing the same over here, it would go, if you can see a target, fire. But what if the target's to the side? It won't turn the thing. If we put it attached to the spin block, it will turn the spin block to face an enemy, and then the weapon control will go, oh, there's an enemy there, and it will happily fire. So, again, with spin blocks, you kind of want to put them attached to the spin block, not attached to the actual weapon controller. But that's just a brief thing, like we mentioned in the last tutorial. I've been EnterElysium. I know this tutorial has been a slightly longer tutorial as well. My voice is giving out, and I apologize for that. But if you enjoyed, please like, not subscribe, please consider subscribing. That is missiles. I think next time we'll probably go over AI. And if there's anything else you would like me to do, please point it out in the comments below. But if you'd like, not subscribe, please consider subscribing. And until next time, stay shiny.